Welcome and thanks for taking the time to view this video. Today I'm going to show you how to use Foot Leveler's new 3D BodyView imaging system. This will include how to image a patient, how to use the tools to educate the patient, how to choose the appropriate product, and actually how to place an order. Imaging the patient is really pretty easy. Ask the patient to take off their shoes and socks. As they do this, go ahead and type in the first name, last name, and date of birth at the top of the screen. Then go ahead and press Next. Making sure that your patient's feet are cool and dry, ask them to step up on the imaging device, and we're going to center the right foot on the imaging window first, and then we'll press Next to start imaging the right foot. Okay, now that the right foot's complete, let's have the patient center the left foot on the imaging window and do the same process. We'll go ahead and press Next, start imaging the left foot. As you can see, you can image the patient in less than 60 seconds. Now when the images show up, they're already in 3D. This allows us to use some of the 3D educational tools. If we wanted to choose one of the predetermined views, we could do that. Or we can move the images around ourselves. And we can also colorize the images while they're still in 3D. You can get really detailed with your education here. Look between the two images at the 3-arch height difference. The way this works is that the laser height mapping measures the arches on both feet, and it displays the difference between the 2 feet here, so it's showing us asymmetry. The way you read the bars is really kind of simple. The higher bar is going to mean the foot with the higher arch. If you look below here, we have the pronation stability index. This is probably one of the best ways to educate your patient and talk about the level of foot dysfunction that they may have. You can see that my number here is 81, and that puts me at the high end of mild. What that means is that I've lost at least 1 arch on both feet. If I were moderate, which I'm very close to, I will have lost at least 2. And then when you go above 125, you've lost all 3. You can show your patient examples of the different phases of dysfunction. You can just simply choose these from the drop-down over here next to the sample scans. Let's continue on and look at some more educational features. On the body assessment screen, notice a couple of things carried forward. That's the 3-arch height difference and the pronation stability index. We want to keep these top of mind. You'll also notice 2 very large colorized images of the patient's feet. You can change these back to the natural version if you like. But we have a new feature here, and that's the ability to draw or type notes on the images. If we click the drop down, it's really kind of simple. The first thing I usually do is pick a color, and I just happen to like blue. So everything I do will be in blue. I'll just next choose a shape, and then simply on the foot, just click and drag to create a box. When you let go, you've created the shape. Once it's created, you can change its size, its shape, its location, even its opacity and color. A lot of details you can do here. If you want to use the text feature, you do it exactly the same way. Just pick text, make a box, and you'll see this dialog box show up. You can simply type in your text, click OK, and you can see that shows up on the patient's image. Once it's created, same rules. You can change its location or size or color or anything you like. To delete it, you can just right-click and press delete. Here's an important note. The drawings or images or text that you put on top of the patient's foot images will show up on the report, which I'll show you in just a second. And it'll stay here so that you'll have something to talk about or remember maybe next time that the patient comes in. You can discuss that. Another important note is to make sure that you're aware that this is not going to transmit to foot levelers. So this is always going to be here. It's going to be on the report for you to have, but it doesn't transmit to foot levelers. So if you have something to tell the lab, you're still going to want to do that in your special instructions box. Look on the right side of the screen at the imbalanced and the balanced images. Look below there, and you can see the patient's right and left balance percent. We put this here so the patient can match up what their percentages are with what they see on the screen. Look below there, and for me it says orthotics recommended. This can say one of 4 things, and it's based on the pronation stability index. If I was in optimal, it would say orthotics preventative. For mild, you can see it's recommended. Moderate, it'll say necessary. And for severe, it's going to say vital. So we're simply just backing up or confirming the information you've already shared with your patient with a call to action. It's a nice feature. Let's continue on. And we'll come to patient information here. You can see the information we've asked for is really pretty simple. There's no duplicate information here. Let me go ahead and fill this in as we go along. Shoe size and shoe width may not be something that you have on your intake forms already. You may want to consider adding that at some point. Now, once you got the patient information in, getting the appropriate stabilizing orthotic is really simple. First step is to go across and pick a shoe type. Then simply go down and pick an activity level. Here's an example where you might choose more than one. In my dress shoe, those are actually tight fitting. And while I realize that's not necessarily an activity level, what we want to make sure is that we get the appropriate stabilizing orthotic for the patient's shoe. So tight fitting is a shoe maybe that doesn't have laces or the liner doesn't come out. That's just kind of a couple examples there. But let's say in my athletic shoe, my activity is intense. If you need a stabilizing orthotic for women's shoes or perhaps one of the specialties, they'll be under the Specialty Orthotics tab. Let's click Next and look at the shock index and the product guide. The shock index, that you see here on the left side of the screen, is really kind of simple as well. There are many published studies that talk about the amount of force you feel with each step that you take being 5 times your body weight. So we just simply took the patient's body weight, multiplied it by 5, and that'll show the number here. You'll see how this relates to the product we chose in just a second. But what we want them to really be aware of is that as that translates up the kinetic chain and it reaches your neck, it is still half your body weight, so a lot of force being applied with every step that you take. As we can see with the product guide, based on tight fitting, it showed me in this case a profile. What I want you to notice though is the shock absorption scale. Notice that that's quite low, and perhaps in this kind of shoe that's perfectly fine. But what we want to do is show the patient the amount of shock absorption they can expect from the stabilizing orthotic that we're choosing for them. So in this case, it's low, and that's okay. If your patient says, I'd like more shock absorption than that, simply choose a higher activity level. You'll see a different product that'll provide more shock absorption. Here's a small item, but it's important, and it's items in cart. Let me show you why that's important. Let's go ahead and choose the Elite XS here. And then now let's say we want something for golf. Well, that's under specialty. Notice my cart says 1. When I go to specialty and I choose golf, the 2 selections here are gone, but we just want to remember we already have 1 in the cart, so that if I choose the Parflex, it'll now change to 2. A simple thing, but it can be important. We want to make sure that you get the right product for the patient. Let's press Next and look at stabilizing orthotics options. Well, if you need to do a heel lift, or perhaps the patient has a spur and you need a correction there, or the dynamic response system, simply add those here. We'll press Next for the last time, and there are 2 places on this page you want to pay attention. First is if you happen to have a promotion code, it'll go here. And then second, under special instructions. Remember earlier I mentioned that the report doesn't transmit to foot levelers. So that information, unfortunately, doesn't transmit either. So anything you want to tell the lab, you're going to want to put that here in special instructions. Now, as I promised earlier, I would pull up the report. So let me show you what that looks like. Choose the report, and we're going to take the summary, and we're going to get a question. Include annotated scans. Annotated scans is a second page to that summary report that'll have those large images of the feet as well as any drawing or text. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes for now. What I'd like you to notice is how the summary report is an exact replica of the body assessment screen. So if your protocol is I educate the patient maybe on a subsequent visit after we've done the imaging, and I use the report to do that, this works perfectly. You get the exact same information. If we scroll down, we'll notice that second page that has the annotated scans. Now, if you'd like to print the report, you just do that from right here. All right, let me go ahead and close the report. We will finish up. All we have left to do is to transmit the order by simply clicking Submit. If you don't happen to have internet where you are, say you're doing an event, you'll choose Send Later. If you do have internet, you'll choose Send Now. I hope you found this training to be beneficial. If we can help in any way, please give us a call at 800-553-4860. Thank you very much.